Hello, everyone. I am Vinod Ramachandran. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Big Sur AI. We build AI solutions for retailers and brands to kind of grow their sales, reduce their costs, and increase their team productivity. Prior to starting Big Sur AI, I spent a long time at Google working on many consumer products like Chrome, as well as leading Google Shopping before we jumped onto Big Sur AI. So I'm really honored to be moderating this panel today. First off, I will say that these days it seems like we can't host a panel without having AI in the title. So I think we have met that bar, with our own. So we have some fantastic panelists here who live and breathe AI every day. And so we are going to get into the real-world impact of AI beyond all the buzzwords. So before we dive into the questions, let's do a quick introduction. So Prakhar, maybe you can start.
Yep. Hi, I'm Prakhar. I'm the head of AI for PayPal. Prior to that, I was at Blackstone, head of AI for Blackstone, Walmart, and Uber. So looking forward to the discussion.
Hi, I'm Emily Silberstein. I'm at Instacart, where I run our consumer app. Before this, I've worked at Dropbox and a bunch of other consumer tech, and excited to talk about AI today.
Hey, everyone. So first of all, I apologize. I cannot see anyone thanks to this light here. But I'm Gautam. I'm co-founder and CTO at Poshmark. Poshmark is a marketplace. It's a marketplace for fashion, but more importantly, it's a social marketplace where we have our own community that is buying and selling. And prior to Poshmark, I have been at various startups doing technology on the consumer side, enterprise side. Looking forward to this discussion.
Fantastic. Okay, let's dive into the questions. Let me begin with you, Emily. So you've been at Instacart for a few years, and you've been watching the AI evolution. So from your perspective, what's the most, perhaps the single most significant way in which AI is beginning to change the retail landscape?
Awesome. So many ways, but the thing I'm most excited about is really the next step in personalization. At Instacart, we have this thing called the planogram. Sure, if people are in retail, you've heard about a planogram. It's like a store map. Most store maps are standard. Your deli counters over here, your seafood's over here, your flowers are over here. Every single person has the same planogram when they walk into the store. But with AI online, we can give everybody a hyper-personalized planogram, so they have a custom store just made for them. So for us, what that looks like is really two things. We need tons of data about all of the items in our planogram. So we have 17 million unique SKUs in our database, but we've gone in and had to really augment that. I think we created 1.4 and counting billion data points just about our inventory. So we know, is this product good for an infant under 3 months, or is this product gluten-free? So it's been really important that we get data about our products. And then it's really important that we have data and information about our users and understand what they like. Does somebody prefer gluten-free food? Or is someone just testing that keto diet, but maybe cheating a little bit? So the more that we can have this information about our products and about our users, we're able to create these hyper-personalized planograms that change with you through your shopping journey. So we have millions, tens of millions of different shopping experiences, which would never be possible with just the static store map that you would have without AI.
That's very interesting. I don't know if anybody else wants to add, Prakhar.
Yeah, if you look at retail, there are 5 problems in retail that you have to solve. The first one is search and discovery. You have to go search an item, figure out whether you want to buy or not. That's where personalization comes in. Second is pricing. Prices has to be optimal. Third is inventory has to be there. So supply chain inventory management has to be there. And then logistics, it has to actually come to you. It has to be delivered to you. Either you go pick up it in the store or it gets delivered to you. And the last thing is post-purchase, right? Everything that happens after purchase. And so for last, I would say, a decade in AI, because you had these narrow systems, narrow algorithms, custom algorithm for every piece, what AI had excelled in is the last 4. right? Like you had supply chain excellence, you had catalog management, stuff like that. But what these language models do, these large-scale AI systems do is, because they're pre-trained, they now enable search and discovery in a fashion that we can't imagine. And it opens a new paradigm for commerce now, right? Like, I mean, everything is on the table, as Emily talked about, like hyper-personalization, planograms, like search and discovery. Like I expect humans to writing much more complex prompts. I want to buy a Lego doll or whatever, right? And that's where that's the next era, right? Like we are not ready for that, but our kids are.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you gave some examples, like AI is already kind of beginning to have profound impact in the landscape. Let's kind of take it further, right? So Gautam, and from all of you actually, I would love to hear some concrete examples where you have deployed AI in your business that has actually kind of moved the needle for you, right? Dhruv talked about like the 4 retail loops. There are clearly AI projects being deployed across multiple of those, but I would love to hear about
Sure. So we've actually launched a number of them across all those 4 areas in the last year, but let me touch upon one that I'm currently most excited about, which we launched just a couple of months back, took it to 100% a couple of months back. It's called Smart List AI. And this would fall in the supply bucket, where we made it super easy for a seller to create a listing on our platform. And it was always a little easy, but there was some cognitive thinking needed in what to put in for each field for your listing, et cetera. So what we've done now is you can take a single image, and from that image, we are able to extract all attributes of the listing. Not just the expected ones like brand and style and stuff like that, but also more subjective ones like title and description. And all you have to do is enter a price, and then your listing is created. So this has, given we are a marketplace, and that to a consumer marketplace, listing is one of the key transactions on the platform. So getting this out was not an easy exercise. But it's been very successful. Sellers are seeing the efficiency. And what's interesting is that it's also enabled us to now help the seller in ways that we could not earlier. So earlier, a seller would have to learn how to create the right type of listing that's going to sell through education, through trial and error. But we already have those learnings in our data. So we are able to take that data and apply that learning into our AI-based listing platform so that right from day one, you're getting a very nice sellable listing, and they're beginning to see the benefits of that already.
That's fantastic. And Emily, I know you guys have been doing some interesting work here.
Yeah, I can talk about discovery. It's really a way to fuel growth. And one of the projects that we've done with AI, we call pairings. Grocery shopping can be pretty monotonous. You go in every week, you buy your bread, you buy your milk, you buy your eggs. It takes a long time to build a basket. But with AI, we can make that way more efficient. So in this product that we have called Pairings, for every product you add, we can help figure out what you want to add next. You add avocado, you can go and add guacamole and chips. You add chicken, we can actually get really hyper-personalized and know your chicken recipe and serve that up so you can just add it right to your cart. So it might not sound that impressive, like it's not that hard to have a chicken recipe or to have an avocado guac recipe, but think about doing that in a massive scale. Previously, you need like a human merchandiser to go and put together those pairings. Within weeks, we can create pairings for 17 million unique grocery SKUs in our catalog and be able to deploy that to users to help make their experience of building a cart way more efficient. And we see it does matter. That type of an efficiency and high quality shopping experience, we're seeing even show up in users' retention. That helps them keep coming back for more because they're really able to build a basket efficiently and be able to discover great products at Instacart.
I mean, those are really compelling examples, right? I think one on sort of the how do you improve sort of sellers' lives and make the listing much easier, and the other is on the consumer side. Like it seems like we're already kind of touching multiple of these use cases. Maybe switching gears a little bit, and let's talk about like the financial context today, right? Like obviously there is a lot that's happening at the macroeconomic level, as we all know, that's directly impacting retailers and brands today, as well as their consumers, whether it's tariffs, inflation, or just the general economic uncertainty that everybody's feeling, right? So when you think about AI investments in this environment of like cost pressure, how do you, what are your thoughts? Like, do you see AI as an opportunity to mitigate some of these effects, or is it amplifying or magnifying these effects? Would love to hear from you, Gautam, first.
Sure. And it's exactly that. We see AI as an opportunity to help mitigate some of this. So one of the challenges we are seeing is, tariffs and all are changing on a daily basis. I can't even keep track of it. And that's leading to a lot of price volatility. And what that means for our seller community is that it becomes more difficult for them to set the right price for liquidity. Now, marketplaces are good at finding that right price naturally, but AI can make it a lot more efficient. And we already have some models and features called suggested price, to try and help you price it right. But they are nowhere as responsive as you need for today's market conditions. So that's an area that I do want to invest in heavily, is how do you make a very responsive price suggester? And it's very challenging for a resale marketplace because there is no price history for our products. So we really need to leverage some of the newer AI technologies to be able to create that concept of this is the virtual product and this is the price that it should be, and then do the predictive model on top of that. So that's an area that we'll be investing in.
That's amazing. I mean, you're basically trying to use AI to actually help these businesses, and as well as at the end of the day, the consumers. Curious, if there are any additional thoughts, maybe you, Emily, or Prakar.
Sure, I can talk also about saving customers money, because that's all even more important in these times. One thing we think a lot about is deals. And there are actually a ton of grocery deals out there. I'm sure you get those flyers through your mail, but you end up just throwing them away because it's a lot to parse through. If you're at the store, it's hard to find deals. But with AI, we can really make a step change in the experience and help people find savings that's right for them. Help understand what really good deals are, what's had massive price change, what's popping with users, and then pair that to actually what matters for that user. Is something that they actually care about in their taste profile based on all that personalization we talked about popping, and make sure we can serve that up to users. And we actually goal ourselves internally on how many dollars that we can save each of our users. And we have all of those sales already on the platform, but what AI allows us to do is really match users with that perfect deal for them so that they can save money in this pretty crazy time.
Only thing I would add is if you look at AI is an instrument for efficiency. I mean, that's essentially like one of the founding principles of like AI, like how do you use an enterprise setting, and tariffs are instruments to increase the cost, right? Like so AI is a perfect marriage.
Amazing.
Like you do if you used rightly at PayPal. If you think what PayPal stands for, its identity, it's risk, fraud, and compliance, right? When a transaction is happening, how do you make sure it's not fraudulent? How do you make sure the cost is right? How can I catch this earlier on? And so using AI in all those four places, that okay, like do I exactly know this is a legitimate identity person coming in? Exactly figure out like the right financial instrument for you, so that I mean, if once a user hits pay now or pay, series of things needs to happen internally, right? Like whether the network provider will accept your credit card or not. There is a transaction fee there also. So how can you use advances in machine learning to optimize for those micro transactions, and that saves cost for the merchant? The customer has already paid for it, but you as a merchant can bring down the costs, and that's where AI plays. So it's an instrument for efficiency.
I love the story about the efficiency. I think it's kind of used to mitigate the effects of tariffs and whatnot. That's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about the consumer interaction, because you talked about like how a lot of these benefits accrue to the consumers. But one of the things that we are actually seeing is that there is a lot of AI chatbots and AI assistants everywhere, right? Perhaps there is even more chatter than actual AI deployments, but there's a lot of talk about this. So as AI kind of becomes this front line for customer interactions, I've been asked this question many times from retailers and brands. How do I make sure that the AI is communicating my brand voice in a very authentic fashion, and instead of like just AI doing its job without any control? So how do you think about it when you think about projects like the AI chatbots and so on? So maybe Emily, you can get started.
Sure. I think the place that we've seen this most, and we've seen a lot of success at Instacart, has been in customer service. Folks know there's always room to be improved in customer service, and it's pretty painful for users. So chatbots getting people quick information and answers is a big win for our customers. Now, I think the thing that maybe there's more chatter about that we're still like learning, and maybe it's a question of a panel like this when we talk about retail, is are shoppers gonna shop in a chat function? And to me, the jury's still out about that. I can share, almost probably 2 years ago, Instacart launched what we call Ask Instacart, which was like a chat-based interface that you could ask us to shop. And the way we think about things is there's new technology. We want to be on the cutting edge and see, is there a there? What is customer uptake in this, and what's customer behavior? And so the feature is like you could come in and say, I'm going to plan a 5-year-old birthday, and we'd give you a cake, balloons, treats. And we saw really low customer uptake because at this phase, we haven't seen a lot of customers want to chat in that. So we'll watch that over time. Maybe customer behavior will change. But what we have seen is customers are coming to us with a lot more specific queries, and LLMs really unlock our ability to help users find exactly what they want, which might be in search today, and maybe down the road, they'll start changing behavior to get excited about shopping with a more chat interface.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Prakar, anything you'd like to add?
No, your chatbots didn't work in AI. It was natural language was broken. Like getting a chatbot work for most general use cases was nearly impossible problem for data scientists. I mean, and then LLMs came along, and now, as Emily mentioned, I could understand the query, and so that's so we are entering that year 3 right now, right? Like where the technology is there, the customer is not yet there because the consumer is like suffering through the 10 years of pain of talking to a chatbot and not getting a response. If you look at what the success we found at PayPal is like we put an LLM inside our chatbot, the PayPal agent, and what it tries to do is it understands. I mean, you are talking, something has gone wrong when you're trying to talk to, like, I want reimbursement or my order didn't arrive on time. So it's a very emotional transaction. Like there's different thing to do starting your shopping with a chatbot, totally different thing to come to a chatbot when something has gone wrong, complain, right? And so the consumer has already had that mind. And so how do you empathize with, like, how do you say we got your back? How do you do it? So I think the way you interact with customer is also equally important than resolving it, because it's a point in the journey you are coming in. And so we found some success there. That look, we can actually make this experience pleasant because, like, we will. PayPal has your back. We got you, but we'll make it more seamless for you. Like, we understand where you're coming from, and so those nuances in the prompt are helping us.
That's very interesting. I think we are clearly, as you said, at a tipping point now, right? There's a bad rap for traditional chatbots, which are very rigid, robotic, and never used to work. But now I think it's a lot more useful. A lot of users are using it, and increasingly, particularly with respect to shopping, almost every Meta AI engine out there is launching shopping experiences, including ChatGPT, which announced their shopping experience yesterday. So I think it's great to see, and clearly there is a lot of AI projects beginning or being deployed at a lot of retailers. Obviously, not everything is going to go well. So I'm curious to hear what are some of the biggest hurdles that could potentially derail AI projects, and as leaders, what should they be thinking about to kind of avoid those pitfalls? Maybe Gautam.
Sure. And I'll continue using the same example I brought up earlier, which is our smart list one. There's different challenges in different projects, but I think this one will be very common to LLM and generative AI kind of projects. So like I said, listing is very core action on Poshmark, and we have to be very careful anytime we make changes there. And when you introduce generative AI into the mix, I mean, generative AI by definition is very unpredictable. So you want predictable outcome out of something that is unpredictable. And so that introduces challenges of how do you evaluate the output? How do you make changes? How do I change my prompts? How do I upgrade my models and still maintain that same quality or better quality going ahead? So one thing we had to do was set up a framework for an eval-first framework where we really know how to evaluate what we are producing. And it involved humans in the loop as well at that point. And that kind of helped solve that problem. The other problem we faced was a very tactical, operational problem. Again, listing is so core that any disruption in that service, any latency increase affects our platform. So when we are using a lot of foundation models from some of these big name companies, and there is so much demand right now. A lot of them are startups. They haven't figured out how to scale. So they're not able to meet that demand. So we had to deal with a lot of operational stuff over there, and our engineering team was really solid. They had to work hard and make sure the experience they're providing, even when these disruptions happen, that the customer is not impacted. And then the last piece I'll add there, which is the kind of obvious one, is cost. These are expensive models. It's very tempting to use the general purpose model to solve all your problems. That becomes very expensive. So what we had to do was really fine-tune and find out which model works for which use case. And it's not always generative AI. So you still fall back to old school classification models and all that for certain parts of it, and then use the right model for the right feature. And that ensemble is what gives you the right balance of quality and cost.
That's interesting. And do you use like a mix of like all closed models and open?
We are using a mix of open source, closed, and a little bit of our own stuff thrown in there.
That's interesting. Emily, or Prakar, anything to add here?
I mean, if you look at AI right now, the field has worked very well for places where the cost of making mistake is much lower, right? Like, so if you, like, I started my career as a data scientist at Twitter, and then like I can show you ads. The cost of making ads is lower. Like you can learn quickly. You can reverse it back. If you look at PayPal, you are moving money. You are the largest global movement of money globally, and that's a deterministic system. Like when I say I want to send money to Emily with $100, it has to be $100. It has to be millisecond latency. There cannot be any errors. Plus, I have to worry about all the things like trust, compliance, every other thing, every law with every country and everything. So it's a much more rigid system. But it's ripe for machine learning, ripe for AI. So the thought process that we have inside PayPal is how do you think about all those determinism that exist in the world in which you operate upfront? So that when as an AI team you're building models and you're deploying production, it's not an afterthought. So how and it, like this also applies to healthcare. This also applies to law, right? Where the cost of making mistake is much higher, right? Like in recommendation systems, on search, on ads, social media. I mean, I can make mistake, I'll lose money, but nothing else will happen. You can quickly correct it. And so at PayPal, we have this philosophy of thinking through the end-to-end design for an AI system upfront. It takes time trying to answer ways things can go wrong and incorporated that, how much of that could be learned at the time of training, how much of it I've handled with logic. So it's human plus AI combination is what works, at least for PayPal.
Yeah, I think getting to that determinism is hard with LLMs and whatnot. When 2 years ago, hallucination was a big problem. I think things have gotten better, but not to the extent that it's completely deterministic, where I send $100 and you get $100, and there is
Hey, Emily might be happy if she gets a little bit more.
Some extra zeros, please.
Yeah. But Emily, I'm sure you in your projects at Instacart, you faced a lot of these challenges, right? I mean, you are operating with grocery, lots of data. Curious to hear, like, what are some of the things that pitfalls that you have seen?
Well, first, I feel very seen. It's like trust and cost and latency and quality. So it feels like other people are in the pitfalls too. The only other thing I would add is data. The core of AI being successful is the underlying data it works on. And I'm not gonna be the first person that said garbage in, garbage out, but it like really matters for AI. And so what we've had to spend a lot of time doing is fixing our underlying data. We have data from tons of different sources, largest grocery catalog in the world, but needing to go in, clean the data, which actually AI can help you clean the data, help you augment the data. And at times we actually need to go out and find that ground truth data so we can pull in new data so we can really get high quality, reliable data. Because if you have good underlying information, you're really able to fuel the quality of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the same, this question pops up every time we chat with brands and retailers too. Like they ask, what should they be doing to make the AI agents work better? Clearly cleaner data and better and more comprehensive information is always helpful. So far we've been focused on what's the current state, right? What has happened in AI. So now maybe, time for a couple of questions, more like crystal ball, future looking questions. So maybe we can fast forward 2 to 3 years, and I'll start with you, Gautam, right? Perhaps in your mind, given all the emerging trends, how do you see shopping changing both from a consumer perspective as well as how retailers and brands will operate in a couple of years?
So in terms of technology, the part that excites me the most is the advances in vision-based models. And let me step back and say, why I think that's going to be, game-changing when it comes to commerce, especially fashion commerce. So I call this personalized merchandising, right? We have personalization that is going to keep getting better. What has been missing so far, and you touched upon a little bit of this, is AI applied to merchandising, right? So as vision-based technologies get better and better, my ability to understand the user through their interactions with this content is going to get better and better. So my deep personalization of content is going to definitely get better. But what do I do with this data? Once I know you so well, what do I do with it? How do I merchandise to you? It's not just about recommending individual products. That will happen for sure. But what kind of things might you be interested in discovering? What might inspire you? What format should that take? That's where the creative merchandising side comes in. And I do feel merchandising as a role is going to change a lot and is going to involve AI heavily. So for example, virtual try-on technology is something that's super interesting. Right? Yes, it has its obvious use of trying something on for size and fit, but go beyond that and using that technology to merchandise this outfit to you. Not just merchandise the outfit to you, but allow you to change that. So now the shopper is engaged with your content in a different way. So I feel that merchandising side is what is going to catch up with the personalization, and you'll get that personalized merchandising out of it.
Yeah, I mean, just like chatbots, traditionally it's been hard to get to a good state. Virtual try-on has been one of those features as well, right? It's been really hard.
Correct.
But now I feel like there is some breakthrough where you can actually construct an outfit, accessorize it, pick a different one, and you can do this all in real time. I'm really curious. I'm sure my family members would love it. I'm not a fashion person, but they would certainly love it. Prakar, I'm also curious to hear about your views on where this is going in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, future is very hard to predict, especially for AI. But I think you would see. I mean, retail is very big. I mean, commerce is very huge. I think there'll be part of retail where you will start to delegate things. You don't want to handle help me buy a flight ticket, go explore XYZ things, where you don't need instantaneous answer, but you need the best price. So that delegation, I think, is coming. So that is one. When it comes to shopping per se, multimodal shopping will be. I think I'll put my bets on. It's an expectation. And then if I have 20 minutes to spend on my task, like I would be spending more in like search and discovery and all the things that hyper-personalization will lock, and less on everything that goes after search and discovery. Right, like as a user, right, like no clicking on something events, right, and so how do you think about agentic payments will become fundamentally important. How does the future commerce paradigms will be created, right? Like, I mean, if I want to make a shopping business, and if I want to talk to PayPal or Venmo or some other API, like my developer time is much lesser. Right, like because the agents will be able to abstract out all the details from PayPal, and also, so it will not only impact the consumer shopping, it will also impact the speed of market for you to launch a business, right? With all the things that AI is empowering, right? So my bet is on multimodal shopping and delegating a lot of tasks. And my dream state is I have a 8-year-old daughter. It's her birthday. I have a backyard. She has a theme in mind, which changes every single day. Right? And today it is, say, Bluey. Then I should be able to take a photo of my backyard and mention right up Bluey. And I should be able to get everything I want.
Yeah, that day is not far away. That is certainly not far away. But talking about, you mentioned agents sort of like taking over some of these activities, right? There is clearly a lot of active discussion and development that's happening on model context protocols, right? Like the MCP that we have heard, which basically, in my understanding, does a couple of things. So one, it lets different apps work together much more easily, and all these integrations are becoming super seamless. So it's much easier to build all of these integrations. At the same time, it's also allowing agents to do work on my behalf. So increasingly, I can outsource my shopping journey to an AI agent who goes and buys the stuff or organizes a birthday party or whatever. So one of the risks that I hear from folks is, if I'm a D2C brand, and if an AI agent is going to do the shopping on behalf of the user, and that AI agent is actually having the customer relationship, not me, right? So how should D2C brands kind of think about this evolving customer relationship? How do they make sure that they kind of continue to own the customer and not kind of outsource this? And this happened, obviously, with search. There was some of this disintermediation that happened several years ago, but this one seems like an even bigger transition if AI agents are going to do this thing. So maybe I'll start with you, Prakhar. And
this one is it's predicting the future.
It's going to happen apparently in the next 12 months.
I think so. You touched upon two things. Touched upon MCP and what happens to identity in MCP. I think MCP is the fundamental breakthrough. I mean, it's in need of our multi-agent systems. I mean, as human beings, our daily tasks are inherently multi-agents. Like I get up, I try to do something, I'm planning in parallel in my mind, and so shopping is multi-agentic, right? Like, I mean, there are multiple agents involved, and there was no scalable way before MCP to connect two agents. That collaboration between the two agents was a theoretical concept. You can't, actually, I wasn't able to scale it. And so MCP solved that problem. Right? Like it gave you a standard protocol of how two agents can communicate and talk to each other. Either it is collaboration, it's cooperation, or net zero sum game in competition, right? In stock market trading, like it's a net zero sum game. Now, what happens to identity? Like, so what MCP is doing is you have an API on the back end, and you put the server in front of it, but that abstracts away all the details of your APIs. A pretty revolutionary concept, right? Like, and so I, as a developer now, want to talk to you. I need to just have 5 lines of code versus 100 lines of code, and life becomes easier. Now, what happens to identity is somehow the brands have to pre-register through the server, like a priori. Like I need to have, like if for example, PayPal has an MCP server to generate invoices out there, and so if you are using Claude's Anthropic as a client to talk to PayPal's MCP server, well, you are passing on to the server who you are. And PayPal has an identity service that can tell you, okay, I think this is a business that is registered. Oh, I think this is not actually a bot. I know who you are. And so it gets abstracted behind MCP. right? And so if you are not genuine, MCP returns a back result. So today that gets resolved by Google search, by you pushing your website onto Google, and Google authenticates it at the time of publishing the URL. That will happen in the agentic world.
Very interesting. Emily, anything you would like to add?
Sure. I think one of your questions was about what is the new engagement model. And still early, but what I can say for something at Instacart, we really care about being where the customer's at. So that could be our app. That could be if the customer's at our retailer white label site. Or maybe down the road, that could be at some disintermediated agentic shopping app. As I mentioned before, we're just want to learn about all this new technology. So when Operator got announced, we raised our hand to say, we want to learn and we want to be one of the first launch partners. And I can say there's still a lot to learn, but it's an interesting space. But I think as you step back, there's a fallacy to say a company like Instacart is just an app, and apps are going away. When you look at a company like Instacart, what really excites me is we are at the nexus of a huge amount of partners. We've got thousands of retailers and stores supported. We've got tens of thousands of shoppers who are out in the real world doing logistics every day. We've got all the top CPG brands. And in the center of that, we have the largest grocery database and over 10 years of grocery purchasing behavior. So there's a huge asset that we bring to bear on how we can serve our customers. And we'll watch the space, and I think over time, how exactly that interface with users might evolve. But there's a lot that a company like us can still bring into this kind of changing world.
Yeah, the future is unknown, as you said. So I want to turn it over to the audience for a couple of questions, but very quickly, maybe in a couple of sentences, if you had one piece of advice to a retail leader who's thinking about AI investments, what would that be? Maybe we'll start from you, Gautam, and come this way.
Okay, I would say that one piece of advice would be that there is a lot of buzz and excitement about AI right now. There's a lot of pressure on everyone to be doing something in AI. Just be careful. Just make sure you're focused on the customer, right? So make sure you're actually solving a problem or providing some value to the customer through that AI. It's very easy to get carried away and build something. These are not trivial things to build, from a cost and time perspective. So just keep that focus on. And I'll just add one more for the startup kind of crowd here is, along the lines of what Emily said earlier, data is really fundamental here. So if you're starting out now, definitely build out your data lake and your ML stack from day one. Don't try to bolt it on later. It's part of the core stack at this point.
Cool. And Emily?
That makes a lot of sense. And I think what a challenge for folks is trying to reverse engineer into what AI should do. If you think about what I'm doing as a product leader, as you said, starting with a customer, I want to save the customer time. I want to save the customer money. I want to have a frictionless experience. You've got to start with what the job to be done and what the goals of your business are, and then see how AI can be a tool rather than the other way around, looking and saying, I have a hammer, what nail can this solve? But really the transformations are going to come when you solve really core customer problems.
Yeah, very well said. I think I would say is build you are in this period where there's a more than 50% chance that a lot of current paradigm get disrupted, like with whatever we have seen. If one thing that GPT launch has taught us was that. So build that muscle while keeping focus on the ground reality today. Like be prepared. Be prepared for what happens if agents actually become a thing. Like what happens if everybody is just delegating? Like what does that software engineering even look like, right? Like as Java developer, like what does, embrace protocols, embrace MCPs, embrace A2As, or any other protocols that come around. Like just be aware about that, right?
So
like
continuous disruption is the norm.
Yeah, just keep learning, just keep building that muscle. You don't know when to use it, but whenever is the right time to use it, you are not starting from scratch.
Those are amazing insights. Really, be grounded. Focus on the user problem, and be ready for things to continuously change. So we have a couple of minutes for maybe a couple of audience questions if anybody wants to ask the panelists.
Sorry, hi, I'm Jitendra. I have two questions. One was we missed the retail, the conventional retail part. I don't know whether we missed or not, but that's also an area where AI could do a lot, especially in large format stores, and there's so much of data available there. Already there are technologies like heat maps and people counters, and so much of other things are already there. So there's a possibility of application of AI at a deeper level there also. So what are your thoughts on that? And second question was about the personalization. I come from the fashion industry and fashion background. So my question is around that, maybe, but it's more generic also. So when we start deploying AI and when we talk about personalization, there are two extremes to it. Now, like for example, say when we talk about creating the listings using AI, every seller, when they list their product, their own handwriting of describing the product plays a huge role in how people will interact with it. Now, if you start deploying AI agents, it can become too monotonous, and that edge, that personalization from the seller's perspective may be lost. On the other extreme, when we talk about, say, planograms being done using AI, it's too much of personalization to a level, sometimes like what I feel in YouTube, that it just shows me a content which is so monotonous that after some time I feel that as if it's kind of categorizing me as a too basic a person, and it's not giving me enough variety for me to keep learning.
Yep.
And sometimes I don't go by suggestions, and I go by my own search, and we try to play with the model so that our
how do we ensure that we are not
better.
over-personalizing things?
So I can speak to the personalization part, and less to the first question. So two parts, right? One is on the listing side. You're spot on that you don't want to lose the voice of the seller, right? And so what we have been experimenting and what we are trying out is how do you build that into the flow itself? So how do I get to know the seller and therefore use their voice when I create that listing? So still give them that capability, but maintaining their voice. And taking that a step further is when you get into agents for sellers. Sellers have their own ways of selling, promoting, marketing their content. What time do they like to send out their promotions, or whom do they want to reach out to? So your agent has to also be personalized to that seller, right? Otherwise, it's going to be the same agent across the platform, whereas we want you to be able to have a copy of yourself that can represent you and basically scale you. So that's on the selling side. On the content personalization side, and this is where I was trying to get at with the personalized merchandising, right? It is not just about the content. Yes, I can learn your preferences, your embeddings, and give you exactly the content that you are interacting with, and it very soon takes you down that rat hole, and all you see is that content. Fashion has to be a lot about discovery. So what is that abstraction at which you want to learn, not necessarily at the deepest level, but you learn at the deepest level, and then you abstract out to what are the styles you might like, what are the brands you might like, and you use those units to start merchandising. So that's how we are addressing that problem of not going too deep into your personalization content.
And 15 seconds on the physical store.
Sure. So much innovation you can have physical stores. We have shoppers going out to stores every day, creating 10 million data points a day, and that can just be more. We're starting to see something we launched called Store View. We can take a picture of the aisle and understand inventory, understand exactly where in the store it is so we can hyper quickly find it. Or what's really exciting, this all goes back to computer vision, we've launched a product called Caper Carts, where you can have a cart that has cameras in it that we can kind of thoughtfully take pictures of what is in the cart. So you can have shoppers put items in the cart, check out, and walk right out. So really saving a lot of efficiency in brick and mortar as well.
Amazing. Sorry, I'm told that we are out of time. The panelists will certainly be available, hopefully, for a few minutes if you want to talk to them. But these are great insights. That's a wrap. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to the audience. And we will start the next one shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was nice to meet you.